his ass has to get home. It's obvious Ted's trying to fuck his wife.
You think so?
He calls home. Ted picks up the phone. Hey, hi. Yeah, oh, your wife's cookies. Oh, your wife's cookies. Oh, they're so good.
Remember when we first met John McClane? Argyle picked him up from the plane and took him down the Nakatomi Tower at the Christmas party. And the terrorists were overzealous, but it was sweet when they killed Ellis. And with a little help from Alan, John McClane kicked out.
Welcome back to Shat the Movies, the podcast where we answer the question, were the movies we love when growing up really that good? You ever caught yourself thinking, why don't they make movies like they used to? Can you still remember spending your Friday night searching for the perfect movie rental at Blockbuster Video? Do you even remember what Blockbuster Video was? If you answered yes, and this is the podcast for you, I'm one of your three co-hosts, Roger Roper, and alongside me are my two co-hosts, Big D, Dick Ebert.
Good evening.
And Gene Booster Lyons.
I'm going to deck your halls, bub.
And each week we take a look back in time and decide if our favorite films still hold up. Each week, the audience selects from 6 movie choices that we then break out a race car VHS tape rewinder and watch the movie that tallied the highest number of votes at the end of each podcast. The three of us will provide you, the audience, with a number of wipes each movie would take to get off your respective butts. So thank you so much for listening. If you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and share with a friend. It's how we help the podcast grow. You can also check out our sister podcast, Shat on TV, where we review television series such as Westworld, Taboo, American Gods, and Game of Thrones. And you can download Shat the Movies via iTunes, Google Play, iHeartRadio, Pandora, TuneIn, Spotify, or wherever fine podcasts are found. That being said, Big D, we are in the final, I guess we're on the final approach of Santa delivering his toys to all the boys and girls, and we're kind of doing the same with our podcast listeners. This is the final movie of our holiday shat-tacular.
Yeah, right about now it should be Christmas Day. You should hear Santa climbing on your roof. He's about to come down your chimney, give you some presents. So Merry Christmas, everyone.
You know, for all the sexual innuendos in this movie we're about to review, I can't believe they didn't use that one. Oh, Santa's about to come down your chimney, deliver his presents under your tree.
Give you a Yule log, stuff your stocking.
You know, I think the reason is, guys, this movie is far above being derivative. And so therefore, this is all original, guys, all original.
Big D, what movie are we closing out our shat-tacular with in 2018?
So instead of doing what was scheduled, War Games. Oh, shit, I ruined it. Oops, there's your Christmas present. Everybody, War Games is next week. Congratulations.
You can edit this out, you know that.
No, why? It's Christmas. So instead of doing War Games, we put a quick poll on Twitter, and the category was Christmas movies, and there was only 4 movies nominated. In last place, The Ref, then Nightmare Before Christmas, second place, The Santa Claus, and the winner with 38%, Jingle All The Way.
I'm excited.
Wait a minute. So wait a minute. There were only 4 choices. Now I was not on the Edward Scissorhands episode. Where did Edward Scissorhands come in? Because I contend that should not have been part of the holiday shat-tacular.
That one's a little blurry. Gene, how did that one happen?
So Edward Scissorhands, I think, has been requested by a bazillion people, but mainly I think it was a Christmas gift to Carrie Gross. Although we didn't realize that she was going to be such a big fan of Good Will Hunting, which should have been her Christmas gift. But we were corrected by many people on Twitter after this vote took place, and I think that there were some that were left out. I know, Raj, you're a big fan of the Santa Claus, but also Trading Places.
Yeah, Trading Places. Listen, I don't want to spoil everyone's Christmas, but there are so many other options than the movie we're about to review that I can't believe it made it in. It shouldn't have even been on the list.
I told you, I rarely watch a movie twice before a podcast. Rarely, because, we usually don't have time. I watched this. I wasn't sure what I'd seen. I turned around and watched it the next day, and I had a very different experience. So all right. I might even watch this on Christmas Day with you guys.
Good. I hope it becomes part of your shitty holiday festivities. I really do. I really hope you introduce your daughter, Emma, and it's something that you watch together for the rest of your lives, because I want you to experience this pain. Jingle All The Way is a 1996 American family comedy starring Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sinbad. Remember him? As 2 rival fathers desperately trying to obtain a Turbo Man action figure for their respective sons on a last-minute shopping spree on Christmas Eve. This movie, I guess, is inspired by real-life American Christmas toy sellouts for products such as Cabbage Patch Kids, Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, and Tickle Me Elmo. The film was written by Randy Cornfield, produced by Christopher Columbus, who also had a hand in rewriting the script and added in elements of satire about the commercialization of Christmas. The project was picked up by 20th Century Fox. However, delays on Fox reboot of Planet of the Apes allowed Arnold Schwarzenegger, boy, what a great decision, to come on board the film, while Columbus opted to cast Sinbad, again, another spectacular choice, ahead of Joe Pesci. The film has a whopping 16% approval rating on Rotten Tomatoes, citing its uneven tone that does not balance slapstick and satire well. However, being the stupid, dumb Americans that we are, we eat up holiday scraps. This movie grossed $129 million worldwide and receives regular broadcasts on television during the Christmas season. Jingle All The Way was, unfortunately, the last film featuring Phil Hartman that was released during his lifetime. We always ask the question, where were you, or what are your memories of this movie? We'll start with Eugene.
You know, Jingle All the Way had always been the butt of a lot of jokes, and I think I even had like a sound clip. You remember those soundboards that were really popular?
Remember,
I think it was like in the late 90s, right?
Oh,
or maybe early 2000s.
Yeah, I remember soundboards.
Yeah, so I had an Arnold Schwarzenegger one, and one of them was, you'd click on it, it would just say, Jingle All the Way, and it was from some interview that he did. And so my first Christmas after moving back to Arizona, it was 2013. I had my little apartment. I'd been gone for 13 years from my home state. I had my first apartment in my home state. And I was like, you know what? I'm decorating. I'm putting up a tree. I'm going to celebrate Christmas right. So started putting up the tree. I busted out some eggnog and some booze. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to crack open the sliding glass door to the patio because it's Arizona in December and you can do that. And I put Jingle All the Way on, started sipping on that eggnog, and realized this is a really, really good eggnog movie. And I've been a fan ever since. I watch it several times every Christmas.
Big D, how about yourself?
First time I watched this was on Tuesday. My expectations weren't too high when I saw the 16% Rotten Tomato score. I watched it. I had to let it digest. It was like a big Christmas Day meal. You know, it didn't sit too well, but I turned around and watched it again 24 hours later, and I can see how this movie becomes a holiday staple. I might watch it again, and I don't know why I didn't watch it the first time, but I'm glad I didn't, because I had a unique experience this time.
I was going to say, as a father, is this better for you that you watch it now with the experience? Could you relate more?
No. There's nothing in this movie you could relate to that's anything realistic. There's
Really?
there's no comparable message. But I don't think this is a good kids movie. But yeah, like Gene said, to break out some alcoholic adult beverages and sit down and watch this, it's good that way. But it's not a family movie, I don't think.
Big D, I want to amend my message. I don't think anyone should sit and watch this. This is kind of a passing by the screen kind of movie. Like you got to be actively doing some other shit, or you'll lose your mind.
Yeah, this
like
is the kind of movie
drunk.
that you just have. This is the kind of movie that if you go to a goth club on Christmas, you want playing on the walls. You don't really want to hear the sounds. You want to dance to Kraftwerk with Arnold Schwarzenegger doing his jetpack around.
Is Blade Runner too boring for your goth club? Try Jingle All the Way.
Yeah, with some like edited dance loop of Booster in that little gold thong.
Oh, Booster, listen, I'm going to save it for Christmas. I'm going to flag my calendar, but I'm going to post some deviant art. Apparently Booster is big in some different sexual what's the flavor? Sexual
Circles?
Flavors? No. When someone has like a niche, like a fetish. Yeah, sexual fetishes. Mainly, I guess, furries. Furries love Booster.
Except there's big shoulders.
Is that
Those
big in
eyes.
the furry? Yeah.
I imagine.
Guys, for me, have you ever experienced deja vu? Have you ever had that feeling where you're not quite sure, but somehow you've been in this moment before?
Yeah, like every time we record this thing.
Yes.
Or have you ever like traced your steps back after you've had a blackout night of drinking? Like
Saturday.
Yeah.
Or have you guys ever had to, like, your mind had to cover up a traumatic experience that, like, you don't quite remember where you were, but driving by a certain thing might recollect those memories and all those feelings come flooding back at once? Has that ever happened to you?
I have a feeling this movie did that for you.
Yeah, it's happening right now.
Yeah, this movie definitely did it for me. I thought that I had never watched this movie until I rewatched this on Wednesday, and all the shitty, terrible memories came flooding back to me at once. So I know I've watched this before, but I'm still on a mission to recall where or when I viewed this the first time. Like, I don't know where I was in my life, but it must have been so traumatic in viewing it that my mind completely blocked it out. So somewhere I've watched this movie along the way, but I corrupted that zip file.
Yeah, Raj, I think because this movie is from, 96, so none of us was like truly a child when we saw this. So it takes on a different tint. Anything that we saw like in the late 90s going into 2000 in the Shat the Movies timeline takes on a very different flavor, because we were like, oh, we saw this essentially, like, I'm pretty much still 16. Like, it's still that same brain operating.
Right.
So it's like we watched it as just a less developed form of your current self.
You know what I think it is I started working for Planet Hollywood in Orlando, Florida in January of 2002. And during the holiday season, they would break out the Christmas reel, and it'd be nothing but Christmas music and then Christmas scenes. And if you're working a 16-hour shift, if you're working a double like you did on the holidays, because Disney is packed, which never visit Disney on the holidays. What are you, crazy? Stay home.
Stupid.
It's so bad.
So dumb.
They had I think they basically just cut up this movie and would play it. So my prevailing hypothesis is that all the times that I watched parts of this movie at Planet Hollywood must have been just like different scenes that somehow my mind has put all together. So I think that's what happened. Anyway, Big D, play the trailer.
Every holiday season, there's one toy everyone has to have.
I want the Turbo Man action figure with the arms and legs that move, and the rock and roll jetpack, and the boomerang shooter.
Getting it is every child's dream.
Whoever doesn't can be a real loser.
Finding it
You got the doll, right?
is this father's nightmare.
I'll get that toy. I promise. Whoa! Nothing like waiting until the last minute, Howard, sir.
Especially on Christmas Eve.
Turbo Man, you're mine!
They're all gone.
These two are looking for a Turbo Man.
Where's your Christmas spirit?
The last one just left.
Now, it's two fathers,
This is war.
one mission,
Oh, poor baby.
and every man for himself.
I'm thinking maybe, we could join up as a team. Like Starsky and Hutch.
We're in late delivery of Turbo Man at Toy Works. Let's go.
Is there a problem, officer?
You can never do too much to make a child's Christmas magical.
Hey, buddy.
From the director of Mrs. Doubtfire,
You want a Turbo Man for Christmas? Forget it. I'm not going to sit in your lap.
Tony, show him.
That was taken this morning.
and from the director of The Flintstones.
Don't open that up. No.
Of course, there's some assembly required. You know what you guys are? Nothing but a bunch of sleazy con men in red suits.
Arnold Schwarzenegger, Sinbad,
I work for the post office and I'm unstable. Tell him.
This man is totally insane.
Thank you.
Christmas comes but once a year.
Jingle All The Way.
You picked the wrong day.
Workaholic mattress salesman Howard Langston. Is he a salesman or is he the owner of the company?
No, I think he's both. He's making sales. He's talking to his number one customers.
Come on, Raj. I thought real recognized real. You don't see a salesman or no salesman when you see one? That's you right there. You're my best customer.
First of all, I'm not a salesman. I'm in technical pre-sales, which means that I'm the technical expert that comes in and demonstrates and builds the demos for the sales guys. So I just get to give the demo. I'm a professional storyteller. That's what I get paid to do.
See, you're selling us right now. Good job, Raj.
That's right. All right. Howard Langston loves his family, Liz, and his son Jamie, but is unable to find time for his family. Howard's neighbor divorcee, Ted Matlin, played by Phil Hartman, harbors unrequited feelings for Liz, and after missing Jamie's karate class graduation, Howard resolves to redeem himself by fulfilling Jamie's Christmas wish of an action figure of Turbo Man, a popular television superhero. On Christmas Eve, Howard sets out to buy the toy, but finds that every toy store in his area has been sold out of Turbo Man for months, and in the process, develops a rivalry with Myron Larrabee, played by Sinbad, a postal worker father with the same ambition.
So it starts off, we're introduced to Howard. He's obviously an asshole because he uses the breakdown lane on the highway. He's an asshole.
No, he's not an asshole. He's just, you know what? He sometimes gets too wrapped up in his things and loses track of time.
Listen, I have certain things that will make it clear whether or not you're an asshole. He uses the breakdown lane on the highway because it's convenient. I hate that. He's an asshole. Obviously, he's a disconnected father, but I don't think it's fair that Jamie is constantly bitching at him for missing karate. They have a conversation. His dad's been there for purple and blue. He's missed yellow and green, but that's because he's working a fucking 60-hour work week for the family. He's providing everything that Jamie just takes for granted. He's got that sweet Captain America, mural painted in his room. I think it's just too much to ask of him. He's working hard. If your parents missed something that you did as a kid, did it ultimately fuck your life up?
Look, I grew up with a single mom, and she didn't come to really any sports events, at least. So I played football. She refused to watch it because she was afraid I was going to get hurt, as if watching me was going to, make me get hurt. Didn't come to my basketball games. Didn't come to my taekwondo. Like, I get it. But the thing was, as a kid, I never had that expectation. Like, I was allowed to do the stuff, and that's all I really gave a shit about. But she was there for like academic stuff. So, I mean, it wasn't like she was like an absent mom, but your parents love you, even if they're not at your thing. Who cares? Your friends are there. Like, who cares?
Yeah. I always kind of found it weirder. The parents the kids whose parents were always at the events. You know what I mean? I was like, don't your parents ever work? Aren't your parents successful? Yeah. Like my stepfather, he worked, he was he was on the road a lot. He was a sales guy. So I never really he never came to my baseball games. Which, you learn later in life that, hey, sometimes your father and your parents have to make sacrifices to, but that's their way of showing that they love you. Not this whole cats in the cradle scenario that you pointed out, Big D.
Yeah, Big D, I've got an experiment for you might want to try out. So with Emma, instead of doing the thing where you make her do like recitals and like do sports and stuff, which puts a lot of pressure on the kid. And like, I remember as a kid, whenever I had to do a play for school, I wasn't really excited about it. If I had to do like a dance performance or something or a music class, I wasn't really excited about a band. I didn't really want to do a concert for anybody. Wouldn't it be so much cooler if your dad was just like, hey, listen, why don't you skip all that shit and let's just play some video games? I'd be like, yeah, that's sweet. Let's do that. Or like, hey, why don't you skip all that shit and let's just get a big sandwich?
Yeah, I mean, how good is Jake Lloyd going to be at karate? Listen, dude, you're a smaller than average white kid. There's no way that you're going to be good at taekwondo. Like in the movie, he's portrayed as a green belt, and he's already earned 4 other belts. Like how quick? This is obviously a strip mall taekwondo of they're just burning through belts at this rate. The kid's like 7.
Yeah, that shit's a money grab, and their belts don't even go in the right order. It's like blue right. And then yellow and then purple. What kind of martial art is this?
I think the kid was just naming colors because he knew his dad didn't know. Because he'd never been there. He's like, I've got blue, purple. You missed red.
Yeah,
I almost got a magenta one last week.
I actually had that ecstasy dealer in 2001.
Magenta.
Like, fuck, man, I got purple for you right now, but you really missed out on blue and yellow.
But it looked like he wasn't even like breaking a board. It wasn't even like a board. It was like a balsa wood box. I was like, well, what kind of challenge is this?
Yeah, they had to chop the box to get their next belt that they bought with a 3-month subscription.
Exactly.
And how about that fat kid, his best friend? That was me when I tried to do karate.
Oh, listen.
You know that leg ain't going high.
Listen.
You know he's not making it past yellow belt with 2 green notches.
Listen.
That's how far I got.
It's obvious that Ted is trying to overcompensate because the mother's gone. So he's trying to feed poor, what the hell was the son's name? Johnny? He was trying to feed poor Johnny. But
feed him. The kid ate from a trough.
Yeah. So listen,
I mean, he's right next to the reindeer that he kept in the backyard.
But listen, yes, you've got the workaholic dad. It's predictable and formulaic, but it's good.
Nah, see, I was actually really worried as the movie started, because just like you said, Big D, I was like, workaholic dad, I seen it. The neglected kid, I seen it. Like Christmas cheer. I was kind of like, man, why do I like this movie again? It's getting kind of boring. And then it was like, oh, there's a traffic jam. I hope he doesn't do something stupid and get pulled over because he's late to get to something. Oh, wait, it just happened. And then, of course, the trope that comes in every both Christmas movie and children's movie that is doubled up in this is the characters that talk to themselves. Arnold Schwarzenegger spends half the movie like talking to himself. I'm going to make it. I'm going to make it. I'm not going to make it.
I didn't make it.
And so it felt so formulaic, and I was like sighing pretty audibly, despite Arnold being Arnold, which I always love. Like, you can save any movie by just letting Arnold be Arnold. But I feel like Sinbad like came on the scene, and then shit got really weird, and I was like, okay, I'm down.
Yeah, but like we've always seen Arnold as a larger than life action hero. In fact, I think he parodied it himself. And I didn't watch the movie when you guys covered Last Action Hero. So I think this was like during the time in his career where he had hit it big with Twins, but had then tried comedy and it didn't quite work out. And I don't know if this was around the same time. I think it was that he did Junior with Danny DeVito again, and they were like, oh, the twins are back, and this time he's having twins or something like that. But like he was
that's what you think, but that's not what happened. Twins was 88.
Yeah.
Then he did Kindergarten Cop in 90.
Hilarious.
Right. That was hit.
And then Last Action Hero.
Right.
So he was, then Junior was 94.
Right. Junior.
He did True Lies 94.
Right, but this is his comedy era. That's what I'm saying. Like this is him branching off into other things.
I would have figured he would have been better because those other movies he was better. His timing was better. He was funnier. Yes, here he's funny, but it's ironically funny. But it's almost like he either got lazy or he just took the paycheck.
Right. Well, yeah, he's not good. Like you said, there's other movies he's funny in, and again, you would expect him to be good because he had. But like, that's what I mean. I think the hubris got to him. What I'm trying to say is he did all those comedies. This was like his last comedy, and it kind of like nailed the coffin in that career. But there's one scene in this movie that it's a side of Arnold we've never seen. And we only see, I think, in his recent work. There was a movie that he did after he retired as governor of California. He went and did a movie called Maggie, which is a zombie movie, but it doesn't really have zombies. It's more about a father who's facing his daughter changing, and you really get to see Arnold as a dad. But in a movie like this, that's kind of over the top and zany, and it's kind of like a live action cartoon, this scene where he goes up and he's apologizing to Jamie and he's like, oh, cool, you got a belt. How does it go around like this? No, it goes on like this. Like, he's being like a genuine dad. And I felt like this is almost like a side of Arnold we've never seen, and I don't think we'll ever see again.
I love that every time you do an accent, you turn into Greedo. Or not Greedo, Watto.
Watto.
Yeah, you turn into Watto.
Annie, your mind tricks do nothing on me, Jedi.
But like I was saying about Arnold being Arnold, like, I'm like, how is this kid keeping a straight face? Because you got Arnold Schwarzenegger with like a belt wrapped around his head doing like, Bruce Lee moves in your bedroom. I'm like, come on, this is funny.
Yeah, this is good. That is good. Like I said, my stepfather used to do that with me. We used to watch Bruce Lee movies, and then he would like play. He was Bruce Lee and do. So maybe it's that. Maybe it's uncovered a childhood memory that I had buried there. But like, I thought that was an authentic moment, and I really liked that. The rest of the movie is terrible, and I hated everything. But like, these are like, I do remember the hot Christmas toy. It's kind of tapered off now as we've gotten older, or maybe we're just not kids anymore. But like, I remember every Christmas, the media would say, this is the hot Christmas toy that all the parents have to buy for the kids.
Well, I think now you have with internet shopping, you don't have to drive store to store. It's less of a hunt. Online, you can find the toy. If you want to pay for it, you're going to find it.
Yeah.
But I can remember my personal experience with this. It was 86, and the big toy was the laser tag. It was the set. It was the gun, the sensor. And it was so hard to find because it was new technology. They were expensive and they just weren't around. You couldn't find them. So I knew my two friends were getting them, and I begged my parents. But I think maybe I realized how hard it wasn't to get, and it didn't matter. I didn't expect my father to find one. I knew they weren't available. On Christmas morning, he surprised me with it. And you know how I said before, hey, fuck it, come on, get over it. Does the toy really matter? Are you going to remember it? Is it going to stick with you? I remember to this day the story of how he found it. It was a gas station on the way home from our house in upstate New York. The guy behind the counter had done like some of the toy stores were doing. They had bought a couple and were marking them up. So he had it on display in the gas station. My dad paid $250 for it.
What was the original? This is in '86 too. So
Yeah,
that's like $700.
It was. I think it was originally like $90. It was something like that, and he paid double. So again, this is my kid mind working, but I just remember.
It's ironic that would happen at a gas station because there's like laws preventing it, like during federal emergencies, like hurricanes and floods, that you're not allowed to like mark up the price of gas.
No. But this wasn't.
But like the gas station's like, oh, there's no law regulating laser tag. I'm gonna mark that shit up.
No, this was one of those like, hey, are you looking for laser tag? I have laser tag. You want the laser tag?
You want the?
Yeah, but
he's what is he? The Iranian? He's the Iranian bad Santas in the warehouse.
All I know is to this day when we drive by that gas station, it's long closed. I can still remember that my father went above and beyond. I remember how I felt that morning, put it on, ran over to my friend's house. We played in his like garage / barn. And, I appreciate it. We're talking now, how many years later? And that stupid toy stuck with me.
Yeah, my childhood was a little different. We had a department store nearby. I don't know if you guys had this where you grew up, but service merchandise. Did you guys have service merchandise?
Yes.
Oh, service merchandise.
You would go to the store, you would see the thing, and then it would come out on a conveyor belt at the end. Like you would get, so...
fancy people shopped at service merchandise.
Well, or poor people. What we would do is they had a very, very liberal return policy. So we would go before Christmas. I'd pick out my toy. We'd get it from service merchandise. I would open it on Christmas and play with it. And then like 3 days later, we would take it back to service merchandise.
Oh, temporary Santa.
Service merchandise. That was the Florida scam. Everyone I knew scammed service merchandise. In fact, I'm pretty sure that's what put service merchandise out of business was their liberal return policy. They would take anything.
Yeah.
Anything back. It was crazy. But like the closest thing that I can remember to this or like attach myself to from an emotional perspective is Black Friday. As you get an adult, I remember when I first started getting some disposable income and I'm like, what? I can buy whatever I want with my own money? Oh, perfect. The first time I could like really do a Black Friday was a couple years out of college. And I remember like going with cousin Brian, who was, a teenager at the time, and we would like go to the Black Friday sales. Do you guys still do the Black Friday sales? Because I think that was kind of parodied in this with the people crashing down the toy store.
Yeah, there's definitely an attempt to depict Black Friday and the kind of the hysteria that goes along with it. I have never participated in a Black Friday. I remember the first time I kind of saw it on the news and I was like, that looks terrible. Like people are camping out and stuff. And I've just never needed a thing so badly that I would camp out for it, except 7 hours in line with Carrie Gross for 9 Inch Nails tickets, which then were available
7
online.
hours?
Yeah, 7 hours in Arizona in July.
Ugh. Were you wearing black?
Of course.
Of course.
Yeah. But like this movie, like I was thinking to myself, and you guys put it eloquently in the introductions, it's not really a kid's movie. Like you can't really it's satire in Black Friday. There's a lot of commercialization. There's a dad trying to buy a toy and connect with his child. There's divorce. There's the neighbor trying to bang your wife plot line. This
domestic terrorism.
There's bombs, mail workers going postal. But like there's also sexual innuendos like right out the gate. It's pretty dirty. Like when Phil Hartman is asked by one of like the women in the school gymnasium, hey, would you mind taking a look at my porch light? And he's like, yeah, I got the right tool for the job, or however Phil Hartman sounds.
Dude, but she was doing that shit right in front of her husband.
Yeah, but this is the great thing about that Phil Hartman character is like he makes you nauseous every time he's on the screen, but he's not really doing a lot. Like he's like it's just Phil Hartman being Phil Hartman, Like he's just he almost has like a ventriloquist doll sort of face, like his head rotates differently from his eyes and then his delivery is so saccharine sweet. But I think you're right, Raj. If you look at the plot line of the movie, and I think this is why people don't get this movie, or also why it just has such a horrible score, is they were like, okay, so there's a free-for-all, and Arnold Schwarzenegger is going to chase a ball through the mall, and hijinks ensue. it's wacky, right? And there's kids and their dreams and hopes, and it's uplifting, right? And then at the same time, you're like, it's sexual innuendo, it's gross violence, it's lots of lines muttered under the breath that don't make any sense unless you're watching it in a satirical fashion. And I think that the movie's all over the place. It's what it is like, it's your friend who got drunk and found a piano and started playing it, but doesn't know how to play piano. And so it's hilarious, but you also don't want to listen to it.
Yeah, it's like a bad version of National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation, because at its core, Christmas Vacation is kind of like that dad going through the Christmas season and having to deal with the family and all of those. But then there's also a little bit of hijinks and cartoon-ish scenes where when he greases up the sleigh and he goes, 100 miles an hour down the hill. It's cartoonish, but it's believable. Whereas this just goes off the rails and you don't know quite how to put it, because if they're trying to tell a moral of the story, which we think is Christmas over commercialization and trying to connect with your father, and what happens if you lose contact with, like, all those themes just don't come, because it's all a parody of itself.
Yeah, I got to take it in the other direction, though. I think that National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation is the reason I don't like it is because it's utterly predictable. You know what's going to happen. You're like, he's greasing up that sled. Wonder what's going to happen.
Oh, and listen, you guys are making it sound like this shit show was on purpose. This was a mistake. It works because it was just chaos. They didn't design it this way.
Whoa. I just said it's your drunk friend trying to play piano. How is that on purpose?
The one thing I did absolutely hate, and I didn't remember was in this movie, is Jake fucking Lloyd. You know how I know George Lucas is the laziest filmmaker in history? He must have never watched this movie. Jake Lloyd made exactly one movie. It was this. You take 90 minutes out of your day, George, or you just take the scenes that Jake Lloyd is in. It'll take you 15 minutes, and you do this before you fucking cast him as Anakin Skywalker, Darth Vader in the prequels.
Yeah, but clearly they wanted a kid who was good at martial arts, so...
Well, in his desperation, Howard attempts to buy a figure from a counterfeit toy gang, which results in a massive fight in a warehouse that is broken up when police arrive. However, Howard narrowly escapes his arrest by posing as an undercover officer. Exhausted at his failure and out of fuel, Howard goes to Mickey's diner and calls home, intending to tell his wife the truth. However, Jamie answers the phone and keeps reminding Howard of his promise to be home in time for the Christmas parade. Losing his patience, Howard yells at Jamie, after which he feels guilty and depressed.
So I've never noticed this before in any other Christmas movie we've done, or one that's set in winter. And maybe I'm being petty, but I'm sorry. Why do you make a fucking holiday Christmas movie that's supposed to be in Minnesota, a very cold place? You do it in April. I could tell all that fake ass snow was melting everywhere. It was obviously not winter. The average temperature in Minnesota in April is 50 degrees. In December, it's 20 degrees. There's puddles everywhere. I can tell that Arnold's hot. Am I the only one who noticed this? Am I being petty?
Well, I mean, have you been to Minnesota in December? Like, nobody wants to be there in December. It's freezing ass cold. You want to be Arnold Schwarzenegger in the Turbo Man suit when it's 20 degrees out? 20 is generous. It's probably a lot colder than that.
I tell you what, the guy in the booster suit was having a pretty good time in 20-degree weather, though.
He was. He was, but come on, at least trying to make it believable. Maybe film it in February or January.
I don't know. Listen, the melting puddles really didn't have that big effect on me as much as the movie really shows its age. The movie plot, we talked about this, wouldn't exist if Amazon and PayPal existed. Unfortunately, we live in an on-demand society now. So this really is a time capsule. Also, the script calls for usage of payphones, unstable mailman jokes, and an Atlanta 1996 advertisement on Arnold Schwarzenegger when he wears the search. This movie is really just it's a time capsule for all the bad shit in American society and what we did in the mid-90s.
Well, I didn't hear you saying this shit during Back to the Future. Which was not a movie about time travel, by the way.
It just happens to have time travel in it.
You know, you guys mentioned Black Friday, and as I was watching this, I started realizing that I don't like shopping at Black Friday because of the gross consumerism, but I would be okay with a counterfeit Santa Mart. Like, I loved everything about the ambiance of this thing, right? So it's like, you know, they pull up to it and there's a fucking like German Shepherd, like a rabid German Shepherd guard dog, but it's got antlers on for some reason.
Right.
Everybody's, you know, dressed as Santa. There's drunk little people. There's a ninja Santa. And this whole scene to me was like so charming. It's like I couldn't believe what I was watching on the screen. Like Arnold kicking everyone's ass with like a giant candy cane. And then, of course, the Big Show shows up. It's fucking great.
Wait a minute. You know what this movie is? This movie is a comic book come to life. I just realized, if this movie was a comic book, you probably would actually enjoy it. And in fact, I actually think Jamie's reading a Turbo Man comic book in his room. So I think if you look at this from the lens of where it's just purely a comic book, or you could see this movie made into a comic book, it might actually be pretty good, because the Santa scenes are kind of crazy, but they have fun with it. Like the whole Santa fight in the beginning is an homage to Raiders of the Lost Ark, when the guy flips off the boxes, really? Yeah, and he's got the nunchucks and he's doing all these things, and then just Arnold Schwarzenegger like takes a candy cane and whaps him down. And then I think James Belushi screams "dog pile," just like his brother in Animal House when he yells "food fight" or "gator." Like there's all these homages to, meta homages a little bit to like prior movies, which I kind of enjoyed.
Just because there's a similarity between two scenes doesn't make it an
Raiders
homage.
Raiders of the Lost Ark. Big Show shows up just like the big German in Raiders of the Lost Ark. This movie plays homage to Indiana Jones.
Hold on. Just listen. You weren't on that podcast. That scene was an accident. Harrison Ford had a stomach bug, so he couldn't film the original scene. It was supposed to be a fight scene.
Oh, are you talking about the sword fighter scene?
Yes.
I know that.
Yes,
but that doesn't prevent Jingle All the Way from copying that scene or paying homage to it in Jingle All the Way, which was 15 years later.
Yeah, I remember that scene where Indiana goes into the fake Ark factory and he buys a bootleg Ark and then realizes he's being swindled. But what was going on in that factory? They're supposed to be replicating or bootlegging toys. It looked like all they were doing was like carnival toys, like big fucking stuffed animals, fake police badges, guns. Were those the hot topic?
That's what they do during the year. They sell it to arcades and carnivals and traveling circuses.
Yeah, I think Howard, though, he's focusing on the wrong thing. He's all caught up in keeping his promise to Jamie and getting the Turbo Man, that he's not seeing what the real threat is and what he should be doing. His ass has to get home. It's obvious Ted's trying to fuck his wife, and he knows it. Ted's fucking with him. He calls home. Ted picks up the phone. Hey, hi. Yeah, oh, your wife's cookies. Oh, your wife's cookies. Oh, they're so good. And he's like, put my wife on the phone. Oh, I think she's upstairs taking a shower. Should I go check on her? He's clearly overstepping bounds. He's fucking with Arnold, and Arnold could bench press him and rip him in half.
In fact, that's the other issue I have with this movie, is that, like, why would Ted, like, who's Phil Hartman, ever try to fuck Arnold Schwarzenegger's wife? Arnold Schwarzenegger is fit as fuck in this movie. Why would you do that?
Because he's fucked everyone else in town. It's his next door neighbor, and she's by herself all the time. Like, it's a challenge. If you can, like, think of it this way. Have you ever, honestly,
yeah.
Have you ever fucked someone else's girlfriend or wife?
No.
Big D?
I think I talked. Yes, I think I talked about this. It was the worst in the military. Did? Yeah, in the military, it was terrible. I was sleeping with a married woman. Her husband was in Korea, and I lived in fear every day, every night that he was going to pop up and just surprise her, and I was going to get a bullet between the eyes. It got to the point where one day she had him on the phone when I was laying next to her, and she's like, "I love you, good night." And then immediately after she hung up the phone, she went down on me, and I had this moral
big D.
Hold on. I had a moral awakening. I realized how terrible
Before
it was.
Or after you orgasmed?
After.
That's usually when it happens. That's usually when it happens. That 15 seconds after you nut, that you're like, wait a second, maybe we shouldn't have done this.
The refractory period.
Yes. And that was the last time I was ever with her. And about 4 months later, I saw them together at Kickers, the local club.
Kickers?
Yeah, Kickers. Yeah. It's one of the things I've done in my life that I'm the most embarrassed about.
That was the only one, though? That was the only woman?
That was it. Yeah.
The one time? Gene, you've never done it?
No, I haven't, but I've been to people's weddings who I've slept with. And even then, I look at the husband or the groom, I guess, at that point, and I'm like, dude, you're marrying somebody that I just like did and threw away.
Oh, what
and
a
it's
dick.
a weird. I know
That's worse than me.
But that's
you
what
threw away. Why would they invite you if you threw them away?
Asshole.
Well, but again, it's that dark part. That's what Phil Hartman's doing. He's like, he can be superior to Arnold Schwarzenegger, to Howie, if he fucks his wife.
I will tell you the reason he's doing it. Yes, when I was messing around with that woman whose husband was deployed, there was a danger factor that was exciting. So the thought of Ted banging Lizzie and Arnold like maybe catching them, he's probably like it's probably just he gets a kick out of it.
Well, I mean, he's got reindeer stashed in his backyard, so the guy's into weird stuff. We know that, but like, can we just talk about Sinbad for a second? Like Sinbad, his character, why isn't he fucking delivering mail? It's like the busiest time of the season. Is there no supervisor that is watching him or ensuring that people's mail is delivered?
So one, I just realized that I talked about my dick sort of indirectly again. So I want to apologize to everyone out there who's on dick watch. Not Big D watch, but Gene's dick watch. But no, Raj, why are you upset at Sinbad for not delivering the rail on Christmas Eve? Like he's a human too.
He's got letters in his bag. Christmas Eve is still a work day.
Yeah, he's an overage. Is it a work day?
Yeah, Christmas Eve is
for the postal service.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's pretty bad then.
I know, but
well, yeah.
Listen, don't you watch the news? Wasn't there recently a postal worker who they found like 7,000 pieces of mail at their house? So I don't think anyone generally throughout the U.S. there's no supervisors at the post office.
Yeah, again, this is a guy who has also kept a mail bomb in his bag. So
yeah.
Yeah. Also, can we talk about like his material that he's doing in line when Arnold Schwarzenegger first meets him? Do you think that was all improv, or do you think that was scripted?
Oh, it's absolutely scripted. But what he does that I actually appreciate about Sinbad is he does the same thing that, and this is going to sound terrible, but I'm on a roll this pod, so why not? But you'll see a lot of black comedians doing sort of what seems like a similar shtick, right? It's jokes about blackness or jokes about cultural identity, which white comics do too, and Asian comics do too.
Every comic does.
And Maz Jobrani fucking makes a living off of that shit, right? But what's different about Sinbad, though, is that he is very physical and big with his humor. And I like that. Like, he was grabbing people around and causing a commotion. And I was like, nobody really does that. Chris Rock or Kevin Hart, they're tiny guys.
Right.
He's a big guy.
Yeah. In 96, it seemed okay for a big black man to choke a white woman in the middle of the street. And nobody said anything. Today, he would have been shot. And also to make Rodney King and sickle cell jokes. This was a different time.
First of all, the Rodney King jokes were pretty dated at this point. I mean, it had been a while since Rodney King.
What do you want everyone to forget?
Yeah, no, I mean, you could have thrown in an OJ reference.
Raj, it'd have been like 4 years since the LA riots.
Yeah. Again, it's a Christmas movie. Let's think about the LA riots.
Yeah, Rodney King. I want to be reminded of one of the worst moments in American history.
Hey, sorry we don't all have the privilege of being able to forget things, white guys.
Everything's in a zip file. It's going to take a while to get from the archives.
Okay, here comes another 1 star on iTunes.
Yeah, but did you like Sinbad better in this or his Genie movie?
I never liked Sinbad either way. I'll take 0 Sinbad.
I see what you did there.
Well, Howard finds Myron at the diner and they share experiences over alcohol and coffee, where Myron tells Howard of his resentment towards his own father for failing to get him a Johnny 7 Oma toy for Christmas. A radio station advertises a competition for a Turbo Man doll, and the ensuing fight between Howard and Myron results in the diner's phone being damaged, forcing Howard and Myron to race to the radio station on foot, where a DJ tells them that the competition was actually for a Turbo Man gift certificate. The police are alerted, but Howard and Myron escape after Myron threatens the officers with a letter bomb, which one officer sets off by accident.
Dude, shit gets real here, right? I made the joke to you in text. I said, what if in Home Alone, the neighbor, old man, what was it, Myers or whatever it was? What if he actually was a serial killer? In this shit, Howard kicks in the glass door at the radio station. He assaults the DJ. Then there's a mail bomb that he found in the mail and kept it. Everyone's going to jail. Howard is going to jail, right? And before this movie is over, Howard is facing some serious charges, and I made a list here. There is impersonating an officer, multiple assaults, including assault on a police officer, breaking and entering, burglary, arson, animal cruelty for punching the reindeer. I don't know if getting the reindeer drunk is also an offense. But then let's keep in mind, then the worst of them all is he participated in an act of domestic terrorism. This is 1996. He's wearing the Atlanta Olympic sweater. There was in Atlanta, they had the Olympic Park bombing.
Yeah.
You couldn't have pulled this scene out. Did we really think it was funny a few months after? And I know people are going to tell us, oh, they filmed this in April. The bombing wasn't until the summer. Yeah, but you could have cut it out. Did they do a Twin Tower joke in like a 2002 movie? Oops, sorry.
No, I'm pretty sure, though, that the Atlanta bomber was inspired by this movie. I'm pretty sure that he watched this and was like, you know what, I'm gonna bomb the Atlanta Olympics. But like, at least they didn't remove the scene because of the Atlanta Olympics. At least it wasn't like Spider-Man where they had to remove the Twin Towers before Spider-Man was released. The first Spider-Man, Tobey Maguire Spider-Man.
Yeah, I think the Olympic bomber was like, I just want to comically singe somebody.
Right, like Bugs Bunny. And like that's what this fucking movie is. Like you think, oh my god, this guy's gonna be so injured, and then he's like, oh, like the coyote when he's chasing the Roadrunner. He's just got like, you know, his hair's all up, and then he's wearing mittens afterwards. Like, did it do damage or did it not do damage?
It did comedic damage.
It did damage to my psyche.
Even a small mail bomb can do a ton of damage. I have a friend, Kent, and his dad worked for, I believe it was Maybelline or L'Oreal. And he was in a lab. He worked in a lab, and somebody who was like, I don't know if it was the Animal Liberation Front or which organization it was. They didn't really sign a letter. They sent a mail bomb to his house because he was working in cosmetics in the cosmetics lab. And he opened it up and it blew his hand off.
Ooh.
And the way the charge was set, it actually fired, I guess, to the right instead of up. So instead of blowing his head off and his face off, it just took his hand off and like blew out the side of the kitchen and all the windows and like part of the wall.
Oh,
and
geez.
it was just a tiny bomb. I mean, they said it was the size of like a shoebox, basically.
Yeah, I mean, this is also around the time of like the Unabomber, and like Big D said, like mail bombs were a regular scary occurrence.
Yeah, and keep in mind the Centennial Park bombing, it killed 2 people. One was a heart attack, but another one, the bomb killed him.
It also ruined one security officer's life.
And if this was a normal movie, I'd say, okay, leave it in. But it's a Christmas movie. Why the fuck is there a bombing to begin with? And then after it actually really happens, let's just leave it in.
Right, yeah. Well, this is, I think, what would happen if Hollywood gave me a shot at directing a Christmas movie. Like, I'm pretty sure if you gave me a $20 million budget, a camera, and some magic mushrooms, and then told me to make a Christmas movie about a dad frantically trying to get a toy for his son before Christmas, the result would be Jingle All The Way. I'm pretty sure this is... Like, you know, we talked about Herman's Head, that old television series. I'm pretty sure if you were to go into my head, this is pretty much my reality.
Well, I thought you were the director of photography because it's like Arnold is talking, cameras directly in Arnold's face. His son responds, camera in the son's face at a downward angle. The wife walks in, camera on the wife at a medium angle. It was terrible. It was amateurish. But again, I loved it.
Yeah, I love that you brought the drug thing up because that's exactly what this movie feels like. And the Mickey's Diner scene was actually like the one part of the movie where I was just like, take this out, because they let the movie slow down and they let you kind of sober. You had like a moment of clarity, right? You sobered up.
It's after you roast your chestnut on your neighbor's wife.
Well, it's like, you know, on a night of like heavy drinking when you go to the bathroom and you're taking a piss and you start laughing to yourself and then you stop laughing for a second. You're like, what the fuck am I doing? And then you go back outside the bathroom and you start laughing again. But it's like there's that moment. That was Mickey's Diner. And this movie's lifeblood is that fast-paced, idiotic action. And I was enjoying it so much during the fast parts that there's lines that I was laughing at that make no sense at all. There's a scene where Arnold is running ahead of Sinbad down the street from the diner. And he looks over his shoulder and literally says, I'm having a good time. Bye.
I can do this all day. Look, what? I can run.
What the fuck is that?
It's like we need another line to make this movie 91 minutes. The movie does move at a frenetic pace. That's the one saving grace when you watch this movie. If you are so unfortunate to have to watch this movie, is it goes by really fast. Like you said, the diner is really the only time that you can stop and catch your breath, but it's over quickly. That's the beauty of it.
But that may explain how this all takes place in what seemed like a 37-hour long day. It doesn't even get dark. So maybe that explains it.
Yeah. And he's at the store at 9 a.m. It's not like he's starting off his day at like 6 a.m. and has the entire morning.
I like that you could even explain that it was a very long day, except they shoot themselves in the foot by having that little clock like display that shows the hours
Right.
flying by.
On the tire?
What the fuck was that?
It was
Yeah,
set
what was
to the
that all
tire.
about?
Well, Howard returns home to find Ted putting the star on his Christmas tree, which I think is a metaphor for his wife. In retaliation, Howard attempts to steal the Turbo Man doll bought for his son Johnny, but is caught in the act and left alone while his family go to the Christmas parade with Ted. After letting the kids out of the car, Ted attempts to seduce Liz, but as she violently rejects him by hitting him with a thermos of eggnog.
So I think I've found the secret message behind this movie. It's not a comment on over, commercialization of Christmas and about kids trying to satisfy them with toys instead of love. I suspect that this movie is trying to tell us that divorce is better for guys than being married. Okay. So Howard is busting his ass 60 hours a week. He's provided a nice house, loaded college fund. He doesn't cheat on the wife. He doesn't drink at the Christmas party. He makes it to half of the karate events, and he is portrayed as the monster. What the fuck? Jamie, his son, wishes, "Oh, you have the coolest dad, Johnny." And Johnny exclaims, "Well, my dad wasn't always like this. Maybe your parents should get a divorce. It did wonders for my dad." Is this movie pro-divorce and saying that if you're divorced as a guy, you're going to be appreciated, you're going to have a much easier life, and you'll be happier?
Yeah, I'm a child of divorce, and I turned out pretty okay. I mean, look how I turned out. So yeah, I mean, I think you might be honest. I mean, Gene and I, Gene's a single guy, never been married. I've never been married. We don't have any kids. We lead pretty productive, enjoyable lives. So yeah, I'm on the pro-divorce train.
I think what's interesting is Phil Hartman couldn't figure out his character in this movie, and so he had to write his own backstory for it. I don't know if you guys are aware of this, but Phil Hartman was like, what the fuck is going on with Ted? Like, how is he home all the time? Where does he get his money and stuff? And so he decided that Ted's backstory is that he had like gotten some sort of a big settlement because of like an accident. So
is this real?
And so yeah, it's not. No, they didn't write it for him. No. Phil Hartman made it up.
Okay.
Right.
And so he was operating in his own head as Ted is a guy who got a big settlement. He wants to be like a star, like he wants to be like an actor, but he's like a failed actor. And so he just goes around banging the neighborhood women and like trying to seduce people, which when you put that into the story, it makes it a lot more interesting. And so maybe it's not a message of pro-divorce, but rather following your dreams.
Yeah, but like, did anyone else get the reindeer gag, or why Phil Hartman, if he is that, why all of a sudden he feels the need to have a reindeer in the neighborhood?
This is exactly what I'm talking about. You were saying that Christmas Vacation and this were alike. No, Christmas Vacation is predictable. The cat is shown, and then the cat gets into trouble. The reindeer makes no sense at all. It has no business being there. It's drinking beer. It's getting in fights. Like the reindeer, literally, when he punches the reindeer and it goes to the ground, I'm like, that was pretty funny. He punched a reindeer. And then it looks up at him and goes, "Oh," in like a man voice. I'm like, what is happening?
I will say that afterwards, when he's sharing beers with the reindeer, that was pretty clever, because like it's like getting into a fight with a buddy or whatever, and then you drink beer afterwards. It's what guys do.
But Phil Hartman, it's so sad that he, didn't live longer what he would have produced. He was a comedic genius. I feel like he had to have ad-libbed that, where Howard says, "What are you going to do with the reindeer when you're done with him?" He's like, "Well, I've been watching a family of deer down by Lake Minnetonka, and I'm just going to go down there and set him free. If nature's kind, I'll take him in." That felt so ad-libbed, but so funny.
So good.
He's so swarmy, but you just, it's brilliant.
Yeah, well, so Phil Hartman was well known within the improv world as like the best. Like if anyone ever talks about Phil Hartman, they always say that this is the guy that everyone wanted to be. He was so talented, and no one could improv or do voices or act the same as Phil Hartman. But I can't remember. Did Phil Hartman? I don't want to bring the podcast on, but did he commit suicide, or was he killed?
No, I think his wife.
He was killed by his wife, right?
I think his wife. He came home. I think again. Maybe we should have researched this, but the movie, there was enough to talk about here. I think his wife, he was going to leave her. There was problems, and his wife shot him.
Right. I think she had mental issues, right? Like, and then it was a murder suicide, right? She shot him and then she killed herself.
Yeah, she shot him in his sleep and then she killed herself several hours after that.
Oh, it's fucking so sad. It's so sad.
If he had followed Ted's mantra,
waste.
he would have survived.
That's right. Gotten a divorce. That's right.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah, it's dark. Well, remembering his promise to Jamie to go to the parade, Howard decides to attend as well, but runs into the officer from the radio station. The ensuing chase leads Howard to hiding in a storage room where he's mistaken for the actor portraying Turbo Man and dressed in the costume. As Turbo Man, Howard uses his chance to present a limited edition action figure to Jamie, but before he can reveal himself, they are confronted by Myron, who is dressed now as Turbo Man's enemy, Dementor. Despite Howard's pleas for Myron to stop, a long, stupid chase ensues.
This movie quickly turns into a Roadrunner cartoon episode. When Howard starts to fly around, I almost turned this fucking movie off the first time. I was like, I can't do this. I can't. When he flies straight into the wall, and instead of being paralyzed, he starts like his legs start to flicker and he starts to swing around. This is Wile E. Coyote on an Acme rocket. Wouldn't it have been better? Yes, it's funny now because we're watching this movie ironically, and it's a great movie to drink some eggnog. But wouldn't it have been better if it was grounded and maybe Howard had to actually save his son by climbing up the building instead of flying around? Even though it's funny, wouldn't the movie have been better with him actually having to save his son?
Okay, so this is one of those scenes where if they had done it as a 20-second take with the jetpack gag, it would have been dumb.
Right, it would have been fine.
But it's because it was 20 minutes of the jetpack. There's a bell curve that you're going like, okay, this is stupid. These effects look terrible. And then they just keep going with it. And then it starts to get kind of funny. Like, and it's Arnold, like, I could just see them in the studio going, okay, Arnold, you got to act. Because there's parts where he's being flown in a circle because he gets stuck on that banner.
On the pole.
But like the rotation doesn't make sense because the jetpack's pointing the wrong direction. To me, it worked because they just kept going with it. And again, this is Arnold completely committing to the idiocy of what he's doing. I thought that the effects were shitty enough and the impact was ludicrous enough and Arnold was bizarre enough that I was in tears laughing. I couldn't even catch my breath.
He flies between those two trees and it sets it on fire. But then when he flies through the window in that nice black family having dinner, nothing in the apartment sets on fire. And why were they... What was that family? That's like a warehouse. Is that where the family lives?
I don't know what version you watched, but I don't know if that scene was in the version I watched.
What, with the black family you had to? They were sitting having dinner?
Were they? I don't know. I don't think so. But like this movie satires.
Wait. What do you think? There's a director's cut of this out?
It's a racist cut. Sinbad's not in it.
But instead of adding scenes, they take away.
Yeah.
They're like, let's try and clean up this turd as much as possible. But cut extra scenes. I don't know. This movie does satire, like we said. It's now satiring cartoons. I think again, it would have been great as a graphic novel or a comic book. But Turbo Man is obviously inspired by the Power Rangers and Japanese toys of that time. But I think it may have also inspired some toys that came out. Well, actually, let me take that back. When did Toy Story come out? Toy Story came out in 95.
Yeah.
So he's kind of like a Buzz Lightyear mixed with the Power Rangers. But Megamind, I know, came out after this. And Dementor looks exactly like the Megamind. You guys saw that, right? With Will Ferrell, where he's an animated supervillain, Megamind. No one's coming with me. It was Megamind. That's what it was called.
Yeah, but there's so many movies that have the villain has this giant helmet. But I love that the brain was exposed. There was liquid in it that actually moved around.
Yeah, it's Megamind. But the character I did emotionally connect with was Booster. I don't get the hate for Booster. I loved Booster. I thought I know it's a running gag and they're trying to make it all, oh, I hate Booster and we got plenty of Booster for you. But Booster's like a good guy and he's sensitive and he cries and he just wants to help his buddy Turbo Man.
But I think that Booster was the epitome of this movie, demonstrating that it's so self-aware. And half of the script, aside from Arnold and Sinbad talking to themselves, is them commenting on the movie itself. And so there was in case you didn't get that nobody's supposed to like Booster, he falls off of the float and literally children are beating him and saying,
Yes.
"We don't like you, Booster. We hate you, Booster." And it's echoed when Sinbad is running through the crowd. He literally talks to a guy dressed as a box. He goes, "Get out of my way, box!" Like it's the movie's funnier than people realize, and I know that's a cheap way to defend it, but I really think it is. And there's that great line too when Johnny says to Phil Hartman, he's like, "Dad, you smell like barf." It's like they just throw them in there for no reason at all. I love it.
Yeah, but I think the beauty in the movie though is the ironic laughs. Like when the kids are at the parade and they first get there, and Johnny and Jamie are together, and they're looking at the parade, and they're seeing all the characters go by, and you're seeing like Gumby and Bert and Ernie and all these like other characters, and then they see Cat in the Hat, and then they're like, "Hey, Cat in the Hat," and they both like high five each other as if like that was the ultimate, like that's why they went to the Christmas parade, is to see Cat in the Hat.
And again, they don't address in every Arnold Schwarzenegger movie, we've commented, here he's supposed to be the American, like every American dad. Nobody ever comments
with the Austrian accent.
Nobody ever comments that he's this giant, larger than life man with this Austrian accent. For God's sake, he's not wearing a Batman cowl. The son and the wife are 5 feet away from him, and you don't recognize, hey, that's dad.
Right. You should definitely recognize your own father regardless of what suit he puts on.
Yeah.
But also like Phil Hartman does, and again, it must be improvised because it wouldn't be this, like where he says, "Can't bench press your way out of this one." Like he does make reference to Arnold's size, which again, it typically never happens. I think it happened in Predator, right? Because there's the whole freedom flex, where like obviously they're doing a test of how big they are. But other than that, like they don't really ever address Arnold's size in movies.
No, talk about size. I do love the fact that his wife, who the scene before was ready to divorce him because he had been lying all day. There's that little case of arson where he almost burns down Ted's house and kicks one of the characters from the Manger's burning head out the window. And she's had it. She's going to leave him. She sees him in that outfit. She looks and goes, Howard.
Yeah.
She's completely forgiven him.
Yeah, so that's Rita Wilson. That's Tom Hanks' real life wife, if I'm not mistaken. Was I the only one? I texted you, BT. I was like, is Rita Wilson hot when she's like wearing her like full figure lingerie nightie and they crawl into bed together? I was like,
No, I feel like every movie they try to cast someone who looks like Maria Shriver, and I don't.
So Arnold remembers which one he's supposed to be his wife.
Which one is my maid? Where's the maid? That's not my son. No. Come here, Pablo.
I'd just like to point out that this whole thing, like the entire thing could have been avoided if he would have just not hated on Booster, just taken the Booster doll that he had, gone home, acted like he fucked up. This is an out as a parent. Just buy a related toy and be like, "Oh shit, I'm sorry. I saw Turbo Man on the box."
Fuck the out. Take the Mexican fucking Turbo Man, El Turbo Man.
It was in pieces.
It doesn't matter. You got it and you go, "Oh wow, I can't believe they tricked me." You have something. You paid for it.
Which, by the way, why would they make different Turbo Man at different factories? Like, wouldn't they just make the same Turbo Man along the same turbo line? Like, was that a racist joke against Mexicans? Like, oh, it's poor quality, senor.
Yeah, Mexicans are poor quality. You're absolutely right, Raj. That was a racist joke.
Yeah. I mean, this is right after NAFTA, so backlash was pretty bad.
Oh, we can't call it NAFTA anymore, though.
Oh, it's not NAFTA. It's like
the USMCA or something like that.
Yeah, USMCA. I like the Marines, so that's why I named it after. All right. Well, Myron acquires the special edition Turbo Man from Jamie, but is cornered by police officers while Howard saves his son. Howard reveals himself to his family and apologizes for his shortcomings. The police return the toy to Jamie as Myron is arrested, but Jamie decides to give the toy to Myron for his son, proclaiming his father as the true hero. In a post-credit scene, Howard finishes decorating their Christmas tree by putting the star on top, but Liz asks Howard what he got for her. Howard panics when he realizes that he forgot to get her a gift. End movie. Or is it? Because there's a Jingle All The Way too.
So, we know that this movie turned out to be something quite unique and wasn't exactly what they'd intended. I started to think, how would I have made this movie, or how would I remake it? So I'm going to ask you guys, I'll give you guys a couple seconds to think. If you were going to remake this movie today, how would you do it? For me, this would be a dark story about Ted being obsessed with the family. So Howard, he's too busy. He's not paying attention. He's neglecting Lizzie and the son. He's out getting the toy and doesn't realize that Ted is secretly like a psychopath. He's obsessing about Lizzie and this ideal family, because his wife is out of the picture. They must have gotten divorced. And Ted,
or he killed her.
No, Dick, come on. This is my rewrite. Okay. This is my
But
treatment.
he's a serial killer.
Why are you stealing my rewrite, you motherfucker? Okay. So eventually Howard comes home. The family's tied up. It's like 7, where Kevin Spacey wanted to play the family man. He's imagining this ideal family. Howard kills him. They find a shrine in Ted's house where he had fantasized about, the family. And it turns out the divorce was a lie. Ted actually killed his wife, and she's buried in the basement.
Yeah, see? There you go.
That's my rewrite.
I just jumped ahead.
Yeah, my rewrite would be the same movie, except the cop would be played by Bobcat Goldthwait.
I don't get on the floor.
Yeah, like that.
Wait, wasn't he Booster?
No, that was that's the guy who's in all the John Cusack 80s movies.
John Cusack?
No, Booger.
Bobcat Goldthwait? It's Bobcat.
No, Booger is not Bobcat. It's the other actor.
Two different guys.
His name. Yeah,
Are
two
you
different guys.
sure?
Yeah,
it's totally
100%.
two different guys.
Totally different.
They have different colored eyes.
Speaking of serial killer, yes. I would not make this a serial killer movie, but speaking of serial killer movies, if you're looking for a movie over the holidays to watch and you want the kids out of the room, watch The Clove Hitch Killer. It's really, really, really well done. Check that out. The only thing I would do differently is I would make this movie into a comic book or cast differently. This movie's horribly miscast. I think Big D, you mentioned that like Tim Allen was originally going to play the part of Arnold Schwarzenegger of Turbo Man, and I think Joe Pesci was going to be Myron, and then there was one other actor. I don't know. Like I would just totally change the casting. I would change the director. I would change the producer. I would change everything about this movie.
Well, you were correct. It was Booger. It was Curtis Armstrong.
Yeah, Booger. Yeah.
Bobcat and Curtis. They're close.
Yeah, exactly. Well, like there's always some sort of like, and that's what you look for in these type of holidays movies is, not that, your neighbor secretly wants to kill you and your family and then bury them under the basement with his ex-wife. There's usually some sort of like holiday Christmas message. What is this holiday movie's Christmas message, according to you, Big D?
It's not according to me. I think it's clearly supposed to be about commercialism and buying a kid's love. Am I right? Gene?
I took it a little bit differently. I think that it's about consumerism, but I think it's not necessarily a rebuke of consumerism, but rather just saying, ain't it crazy, folks? Ain't it crazy? Almost like a quasi celebration. It's like, it's what satire is, right? Satire can poke fun at something without cruelly condemning it. And I think it's satire about consumerism.
Because I expected at the end of the movie, at least, for Howard to have some awakening. He would have some moment that would change him. And he goes to the family. He has saved the day. He's still been a shitty dad. And he says, I've been neglecting you. I'm sorry. I won't do it again. And then what does he immediately do? He leaves the family again and gets carried away by the crowd as they're chanting, woo! So he immediately does what he told them he was not going to do anymore.
Well, not only that, but like, do you think it was satire that spurred on the studio to create toys for this movie? That if it's truly a tale against consumerism, like, is that the ultimate troll from 20th Century Fox?
I think it was just a money grab. But if you look, $800 on eBay to get one of those actual Turbo Men.
Yeah, it's crazy. But no, there's like, I thought there was also going to be other toys related to Turbo Man. There's a Turbo Man car that you can buy. But like I wanted Booster. I wanted the little Booster toy to put up in my tchotchke collection. There is not a Booster toy, but there is a lot of artwork featuring Booster in a Turbo Man bikini. We can post some of those on our Twitter feed. I'll set a reminder. That That does it for our review. Now's the time of the podcast where we break out our shat meter and give you our wipe score. If you've never listened to the podcast before, Zero Wipes is a perfect movie. It's like when you wake up on Christmas and you smell breakfast being cooked by your family in the kitchen, and you've got Bing Crosby playing in the background, and you wake up and there's fresh snow outside. It's just a beautiful Christmas morning. You can't wait to have that first cup of coffee and settle in with all of your family around the Christmas tree and open up presents. It's just absolutely magical. And a 5-wipe movie is basically when you drink way too much eggnog the night before Christmas, and you wake up with a really bad tummy ache, and then you go into your parents' bathroom because you're at your parents' house, and you just absolutely explode all over the toilet, and they forget to tell you that that's the toilet that doesn't work anymore, and all the toilet paper is downstairs because it was stolen by your shitty cousins who are there too, and they're using the toilet paper to build toilet paper forts, and you've got nothing to wipe with. It's just all over the place. It's just a mess. So 0 wipes is good, 5 wipes is bad. That being said, Gene, how many wipes do you give this movie?
I think it's no mystery that I enjoy this movie. I was in an awful mood when I started watching this movie, and I was almost worried that I was so pissed off that I was going to give it an unfairly poor rating. I was going to be biased. And so just as a background for everybody, so you guys know what happens if I miss one day of like Krav or boxing. I get into a mood, I'm very angry. I need to release that violence somewhere.
Yeah.
So 3 days of Krav I missed because I've been so busy with work, and I've been sleep deprived. And then I'd been editing Good Will Hunting, which we just released. Which was just released at the time of this recording.
We're coming to you from the past, or the future. Or something like that.
So I was in a pretty bad mood and really pressed for time, and I put this movie on. And Jingle All the Way is this mindless, quirky, fun, fast-paced, drug binge of a movie. And it was fun enough to make me smile. It's like a peppermint piece of shit. It's the kind of piece of shit that leaves you feeling better and lighter and happier when you're done with it, with a little bit of Christmas cheer. So for me, this is not a great movie, but a good movie. I'd say 2 wipes.
Wow. A 2 wipe for you? Wow.
Yeah, it's a Good Will Hunting right there.
Big D, what do you think?
So when I watched this the first time through, it was a 5. It would have been a 7 if I could have given it. Second time through, I started to buy into it. I started to feel what the movie was. And like Gene said, I enjoyed it the second time through. I think it's funny, and I'll watch it again. But I can't confuse that with, is it a good movie? Yes, I enjoy it, but it's because it's such a shit show. At least Last Action Hero, which all of us felt was gravely underappreciated for its comedic timing and just how meta it was and how self-aware it was. This was funny by accident. I was going to do a 5, and then I said, you know what? Any movie that has WWE superstar The Big Show punching a midget clear across the room, I would take off half of a wipe.
Little person.
This is 96. I can say midget. I'm going to take another half wipe off.
You can't say it was, because it wasn't proper in 96. You can't just say, I can say the N-word because it's 1940s in my head.
Get off your soapbox. We don't get any hate emails from little people, so I feel okay saying it. I'm going to give this a 4
Well, now
wipe.
we do.
Yeah, bring it on. Let's go. I'll take on like 30 of you. Let's go. I'm giving this a 4 wipe. I would watch it again. It's good, not on purpose, but it's perfect for this time of year. 4.
You're gonna give it 4 wipes. Wow,
Yeah,
this movie is what happens when you try to watch a Christmas movie after drinking 40 ounces of eggnog spiked with acid, and then wake up in the middle of the night and eat the entire fruitcake and gingerbread house that was assembled last year. This is terrible. I hated every minute of it. We talked how earlier Halloween and Christmas are our favorite holiday seasons, especially when it comes to watching those holiday themed movies, because there's so many of them, and there are so many Christmas movies to choose from. I don't know why anyone would ever want to waste your time with this one. This one is a clear 5 wipe movie for me.
I'm just surprised that Roger says this movie inspired other characters, and this movie is what would happen if Hollywood gave me a $20 million budget to make a movie. And, and you're laughing the whole time we're talking about it. And then you're like, you know what? No redeeming quality whatsoever.
None.
5 wipes.
None. Listen, I'm as self-aware as this movie is. That's how bad like, I know where my talents are, and it would be about this. This is the level that I would rise to.
All right.
Someone went to film school to make this movie, is what I'm saying.
Dude, Chris Columbus wrote this shit, man.
Yeah, exactly. It's shit. He also wrote Home Alone, which is a far superior movie.
Predictable. All right, so Big D's got 4 wipes. I've got 2 wipes. Raj, you have 5. That gives us an average of 3.6 repeating wipes for Jingle All the Way.
Big D, where does that put that in the pantheon of holiday shat movies? And I guess all of our movies, whatever we're comparing this to.
So again, because we're coming from the future, I think this is movie like 93 with a score of 3.66 repeating. This ties it in the 70 spot with Twister and Porky's. It is worse than A Nightmare on Elm Street. It is better than Labyrinth and The Last Starfighter.
Yeah.
Oh,
the system works.
I like it.
All right. Well, that concludes our holiday shat-tacular. Big D, what movie category are we returning to our regularly scheduled program? As if you didn't already listen to the first 10 minutes of this podcast.
Maybe you weren't paying attention in the beginning, so it'll be a surprise to you then. But the category was the best of Matthew Broderick, Lady Hawk, Biloxi Blues, Godzilla, Glory, War Games, or The Cable Guy. So stay tuned to the end and hear the trailer and join us next week.
Over 2,000 of you voted for this movie. I can't believe almost over 40% voted for one of these. I can't believe it wasn't the movie I wanted it to be. I don't even know our audience anymore. I don't know you people.
You're surprised that people don't think the way you do?
It's very odd. That concludes this week's episode of Shat the Movies. Be sure to follow us on social media and share with a friend. We're everywhere, including Twitter, Snapchat, and Instagram. Just follow the handle @ShatTheMovies. We're also on Facebook. Just search for Shat the Movies Podcast, our website, shatthemovies.com. If you want to hear past episodes and vote for upcoming movies, that's where you do it, shatthemovies.com. You can also check out our sister podcast, Shat on TV, where we review television series such as Westworld, Taboo, American Gods, and Game of Thrones. You can also check out all the information at shatontv.com. If you have an idea for an upcoming movie category podcast that you want us to review, you can email us, hosts@shatthemovies.com. Also, if you have a advertising or you want us to be part of your programming, please do that. And then also, similarly, while you're doing that, go to shatthemovies.com/survey. And I think it takes about like 20 or 30 seconds. And we don't collect any personal information. It just tells advertisers what your preferences are so we can then target you with relevant content. But check our email.
Don't scare people like that. We're not targeting you with relevant.
No.
Okay.
Like, listen, what do you want to listen to? You want Purple Mattress or do you want Stamps.com?
Yes.
Those are the two. Like when you run a podcast, you either get one of those two.
Right.
So what do you want to listen to?
Well, I imagine Legal Zoom would probably be a good
Legal Zoom is the
sponsor
third. That's a good
for
one.
our audience. So yes,
because we're going to need a lawyer is basically what you're saying after some of the stuff you say on this podcast.
We're not targeting you. It's to match advertisers with our audience. So 2 seconds, shatthemovies.com/survey.
Yeah. We're everywhere. Fine podcasts can be found, including iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, Christian Mingle, Farmers Only, J-Swipe. Be sure to subscribe, and if you stop by iTunes, please be sure to leave a 5-star review. That really helps the podcast grow. On behalf of my co-hosts, Big D, Dick Ebert, and Gene Booster Lyons, I'm Roger Roper. Be sure to join us next week for the following podcast. Listen after the credits. You'll hear it. Take care. Good night and good luck. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas. Happy Hanukkah. Happy Kwanzaa. Whatever you're doing. I don't know. A very solemn Ramadan. Enjoy yourselves. Enjoy life. Bring light into the world.
Merry Christmas.
David Lightman was a master at computer games, a fast thinker.
Oh, David! Maybe you could tell us who first suggested the idea of reproduction without sex.
Your wife?
Get out, Lightman.
And a promising student at an old game.
Hi.
With an electronic twist.
Are those your grades?
Yeah. I don't think that I deserved an F. Do you?
You can go to jail for that.
Only if you're over 18. This computer company is coming out with these amazing new games in a couple of months. And I want to play those games. Wow.
What?
We got something.
He found the right code word to play the game,
We're in.
but it was the wrong computer.
Shall we play a game? How can I ask you that?
How about global thermonuclear war?
Fine.
All right. What the hell? They're trajectory headings for multiple impact re-entry vehicles.
What does that mean?
I don't know, but it's great.
All stations, this is Crystal Palace.
I wonder if I should use my subs.
22 Typhoon-class submarines departing Petropavlovsk.
What in the hell's happening here?
Oh my God.
Shall we play?
I have 7, correction, 8. That's 8 Redbirds. Get on the sack. Tell them to flush the bombers.
Russians are still denying everything, sir.
Who are you working with?
Nobody.
Why don't I believe you?
Overday, we have Soviet missile warning.
Placed under arrest pending indictment for espionage.
Espionage?
Confidence is high. I repeat, confidence is high.
Cobra Dane, is this an exercise?
Negative, this is not an exercise.
Made the president on the horn.
It's still playing the game. It's gonna start a war.
Close up the mouth.
Is this a game or is it real?
War games, playing soon at a theater near you.
Shall we play?